Welcome back, DaJobniks, to the second episode of the history of the Jewish people. In this episode, we explore the journey from slavery in Egypt to the conquest of Canaan, focusing on the leadership of Moshe and Yehoshua. The period we are exploring spans from approximately 1450 BCE to 1250 BCE. These events are foundational to Jewish identity and faith. Moshe was born during a time of great oppression for the Israelites in Egypt. Pharaoh had decreed that all newborn Hebrew boys be thrown into the Nile because he knew that the savior of the Israelites was born. Moshe's mother, Yocheved, from the tribe of Levi, hid him for 3 months. When she could hide him no longer, she placed him in a basket, coated with tar and pitch, and set it among the reeds along the Nile. Pharaoh's daughter found the basket while bathing in the Nile. Moved by compassion, she decided to adopt the baby. Miriam, Moshe's sister, who had been watching from a distance, offered to find a Hebrew woman to nurse the child. She brought Yocheved, who nursed Moshe until he was weaned. Pharaoh's daughter then named him Moshe, meaning drawn out of the water. Moshe grew up in the Egyptian royal court. There he gained an education and privilege. However, he never forgot his Hebrew roots. One day, witnessing an Egyptian beating a Hebrew slave, Moshe intervened and killed the Egyptian. Fearing for his life after this act, he fled to Midian, where he began a new chapter. In Midian, Moshe married Zipporah, the daughter of Yitro, a Midianite priest. Moshe became a shepherd, tending to his father-in-law's flocks. This period of Moshe's life prepared him for his future role as the leader of the Israelites. After fleeing Egypt and settling in Midian, Moshe's life took a transformative turn while tending his father-in-law Yitro's flock. Moshe was about 80 years old when he led his flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There, he saw a bush that was on fire but did not burn up. Curious, Moshe approached the bush to investigate this extraordinary sight. As Moshe approached the bush, God called to him from within the bush,
"Moshe, Moshe."
And Moshe said, "Here I am." God instructed Moshe to remove his sandals, for the place where he was standing was holy ground. This encounter marked the beginning of Moshe's divine mission. God revealed to Moshe that he had seen the suffering of his people in Egypt and had come to rescue them. He chose Moshe to lead the Israelites out of slavery and into the promised land. Moshe, however, was reluctant, questioning his ability to confront Pharaoh and lead the Israelites. To reassure Moshe, God provided 3 signs. The first, transforming Moshe's staff into a snake and back again. The second, making Moshe's hand leprous and then healing it. And the third, turning water from the Nile into blood. These signs were meant to convince both Moshe and the Israelites of God's power and Moshe's divine appointment. Moshe expressed his concern about his speaking abilities, stating that he was heavy of mouth and heavy of tongue. God responded,
"Who gave human beings their mouths? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will help you speak and will teach you what to say."
Despite this reassurance, Moshe asked God to send someone else. God then appointed Aharon, Moshe's brother, to speak on his behalf. Moshe returned to Yitro and asked for his blessing to go back to Egypt. With Yitro's approval, Moshe set out on the journey that would lead to the liberation of the Israelites from bondage. This encounter at the burning bush was a pivotal moment, transforming Moshe from a shepherd into a leader chosen by God. Under God's command, Moshe and Aharon approached Pharaoh with the demand, "Let my people go so that they may serve me." Pharaoh's heart was hardened, leading to the onset of the 10 plagues. Each plague was a direct challenge to the Egyptian gods and a demonstration of God's supreme power. The first plague turned the waters of the Nile into blood, killing the fish and making the water undrinkable. Despite the magicians replicating this miracle, Pharaoh remained unmoved. The second plague brought an infestation of frogs, followed by lice, which the magicians could not replicate, declaring, "This is the finger of God." The plagues escalated in severity. Swarms of flies invaded homes, livestock was struck with pestilence, and boils afflicted the Egyptians. Hail mixed with fire fell, devastating crops and livestock. Locusts consumed what was left, and darkness enveloped the land for 3 days. The final plague was the death of the firstborns, which led to widespread mourning across Egypt. Only then did Pharaoh relent, allowing the Israelites to leave. Following the final plague, the Israelites prepared to leave Egypt, marking the first Passover. They left in haste with unleavened bread as their only provision. As they departed, God guided them with a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. Pharaoh soon regretted his decision and pursued the Israelites with his army. Trapped between Pharaoh's forces and Yam Suf, Moshe stretched out his hand, and God parted the waters, allowing the Israelites to cross on dry ground. When the Egyptians followed, the waters returned, drowning Pharaoh's army. This miraculous escape solidified the Israelites' faith in God and Moshe's leadership. Three months after leaving Egypt, the Israelites arrived at the desert of Sinai and camped in front of the mountain. God called Moshe to the top of Mount Sinai and instructed him to prepare the people for his divine revelation. The people were to consecrate themselves and wash their clothes, and they were to be ready by the third day. On the morning of the third day, there was thunder and lightning, a thick cloud over the mountain, and a very powerful blast of a shofar. The entire mountain trembled violently, and all the people in the camp trembled. Moshe led the people out of the camp to meet with God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. Amidst the thunder, lightning, and the sound of the shofar, God descended upon Mount Sinai in fire. Smoke billowed up from it like smoke from a furnace, and the whole mountain shook violently. God spoke the 10 Commandments directly to the people, establishing the core principles of Jewish law. The sight and sounds were so overwhelming that the people trembled in fear. They pleaded with Moshe to speak to them on God's behalf, as they feared that hearing directly from God would cause them to die. Moshe reassured them that God had revealed himself to instill reverence and prevent them from sinning. Following the dramatic events at Mount Sinai, the Israelites began their long journey through the wilderness. This period was characterized by constant movement, challenges, and divine provision. God provided manna, a miraculous food, and water from a rock, ensuring their survival in the harsh desert conditions. Despite these miracles, the journey was fraught with difficulties. The rebellion of Korach, who challenged Moshe's leadership, resulted in a dramatic divine intervention where the earth swallowed the rebels. Additionally, the sin of the spies, where 10 of the 12 scouts sent to explore Canaan brought back a negative report, led to the Israelites' punishment of 40 years of wandering, 1 year for each day the spies spent in Canaan. During their time in the desert, the Israelites constructed the Mishkan, a portable sanctuary according to divine specifications. This served as the center of worship and a tangible sign of God's presence among them. God also provided additional laws and instructions, guiding the Israelites in establishing a just and holy community. Towards the end of their journey, Moshe began the process of allocating the territories for each of the 12 tribes of Israel. Each tribe was assigned a specific region in the Promised Land, ensuring that they all had a place to settle and thrive. This allocation laid the groundwork for the future nation of Israel, with each tribe having its own unique role and place. As the Israelites approached the Promised Land, their journey under the leadership of Moshe was coming to an end. Moshe climbed Mount Nebo from the plains of Moab to the top of Pisgah, across from Jericho. The Lord showed him the whole land, from Gilad to Dan and all of Naphtali, the territory of Ephraim and Manasseh, all the land of Yehudah as far as the Mediterranean Sea, the Negev, and the whole region from the valley of Jericho, the city of palms, as far as Zohar. Then the Lord said to him, "This is the land I promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob when I said, I will give it to your descendants. I have let you see it with your eyes, but you will not cross over into it." Before his death, Moshe blessed the tribes of Israel, giving each a unique blessing based on their character and future. He concluded by reaffirming God's promise and urging them to remain faithful to the covenant. Moshe, the servant of the Lord, died there in Moab, as the Lord had said. He was buried in Moab, in the valley opposite Beit Peor, but to this day no one knows where his grave is. Moshe was 120 years old when he died, yet his eyes were not weak, nor his strength gone. The Israelites grieved for Moshe in the plains of Moab for 30 days, until the time of weeping and mourning was over. And there was no other prophet who arose in Israel like Moshe, whom the Lord knew face to face. After Moshe's death, Yehoshua, son of Nun, was filled with the spirit of wisdom, because Moshe had laid his hands on him. The Israelites listened to him and did what the Lord had commanded Moshe. Yehoshua led the Israelites in their conquest of Canaan, beginning with the miraculous crossing of the Jordan River and the fall of Jericho. Under his leadership, the Israelites secured the Promised Land and divided it among the tribes. In this episode, we have witnessed the pivotal moments of the Exodus, the receiving of the Torah at Mount Sinai, the challenges in the wilderness, and the transition of leadership from Moshe to Yehoshua. These events not only shaped the identity of the Jewish people, but also laid the foundation for their future in the Promised Land. Join us in the next episode as we explore the conquest of Canaan under Yehoshua's leadership and the establishment of the Israelites in their new homeland.